Good afternoon, good morning. This is Mark Johnson from Loyalty 360. I hope everyone's happy, safe, and well. And welcome you back to another episode of our Leaders in Customer Loyalty series. In this series, we talk to the brand leaders about what they are seeing and hearing on the front lines of customer channel and brand loyalty. Today, we have the pleasure of speaking with Matt Moore. He is the Vice President of Digital and Loyalty at Tim Hortons, Canada's largest restaurant chain operating in the QSR, or quick service industry. They serve over 5 million cups of coffee every day. It's a lot of coffee, with 80% of Canadians visiting one of the nearly 4,000 Tim Hortons in Canada at least once a month. Those are some amazing stats. How are you, Matt?
Yeah, I'm doing well. It's great to be here, Mark. Thanks for having me. Can't complain. As I was just saying, we're getting started. It's a sunny day here in Toronto, so sunny and warm, so I can't complain at all.
Well, that's good. That's good. For those who may not know about Tim Hortons, can you tell us a little bit more, firstly, about you, kind of what you do at Tim Hortons? And we also like to get a fun fact, maybe a passion running potentially, or jumping out of planes, or deep sea diving, a passion that you may have.
Sure. Look, I think so. A bit about me, I guess. I'm originally from Canada. I grew up in a small town in Eastern Canada, Nova Scotia. I started my career as an engineer for General Electric. I moved to the UK I guess about 13 years ago. I did my MBA, and I worked in management consulting for a few years, both in Europe and in the Middle East, and then I got lured over to the QSR industry. I joined Yum Brands in 2015, based out of London, UK. I was chief customer officer, so I was looking after operations and digital. And you can imagine e-commerce there is a pretty important thing. Everyone orders the pizzas online these days. And I sort of got me into the digital and loyalty world, was helping Pizza Hut do a digital transformation. And we started a tech company called Pizza Hut Digital Ventures that still exists today. So that was that sort of got my feet wet in digital and in customer experience, getting pretty deeply into it. And look, I think an opportunity came up. I was introduced to the team at Restaurant Brands, and who runs Popeyes, Burger King, and Tim's. I love Tim's. Fun fact, I guess I think I've been drinking Tim Hortons coffee for 3/4 of my life almost. I probably started drinking it too young. I have 2 young girls that I kind of like the idea of having them live up and grow up in Canada. And I knew RBI was the kind of brand in Tim's that that would lure me back, and they did. So I've been with Tim's for 3 years, based here in Toronto. I lead digital and loyalty for the brand. There was no loyalty when I started. There was digital and no one was using it. So we've been on quite a journey where we were talking about it earlier this morning. It's in a company update. I think 1% of our sales, or less than, were linked to digital platforms beginning of 2019, and now well over 30% are linked. So we've had pretty exceptional growth. A lot of that underpinned by the performance of our loyalty program. So it's everything. I now look after everything related to digital customer experience. Whether that's digital ordering, digitizing our traditional channels, like a drive-through, which is an exciting space. Other usage and experience on our app. If we have contest campaigns, games, offers, etc. So anything guest facing, top line focus, guest experience is what me and my team focus on.
Okay, great.
In terms of fun fact, otherwise, I always do so poorly at these. I think it's both my girls' interesting fact, I guess, as it relates to Tim's. They had their first Tim Hortons in the UK, which I don't think many, they grew up Canadian because they're 3 and 5 now. But the very first Tim Hortons they went to was in Scotland, just before we moved back to Canada. So it's a bit of a random fact that they'll carry, I guess.
Okay, great. And for those who don't know more about Tim Hortons, you have 4,000 locations in Canada. Can you give us a little history on Tim Hortons, how you guys came to be, and what you offer now?
Yeah, look, Tim Hortons is in Canada. It's an extremely special brand, and it's been around for 57 years. It was founded in 1964 by Tim Horton. He was an NHL hockey player. He opened the first restaurant in Hamilton, Ontario, which is not too far from Buffalo, probably about an hour down the road. It was first a coffee and donut shop, and where the focus was ensuring fresh coffee. And we still take pride today that we're brewing coffee every 20 minutes. And look, I think through the 90s, it went through exceptional. In 2000s, it went through exceptional growth. The team who was running it at the time, expanded the menu. We're offering, and we continue to evolve it, but it's still core on coffee and baked goods, mainly donuts, but we have a full array of baked goods. But we're also doing lunch sandwiches, soups, chilies are super popular. And I think what's been really exciting to watch recently is cold beverages. No surprise, there's a big movement towards more interesting cold beverages, caffeinated and uncaffeinated. So, you can pretty much find a Tim's anywhere in Canada. The 4,000 restaurants means we have a restaurant for every 90,000 Canadians. And for example, that's probably about 3 times higher penetration than McDonald's in the US. So it's pretty impressive to see the scale that the brand has grown to in Canada.
Absolutely. The Tim's reward program, I think, was launched in March of 2019. I think it's grown to over 6 million registered users and 3.5 million active users monthly. Can you tell us how the program grew so fast and how you work to keep customers engaged?
Yeah, look, it was it's been a pretty intense journey over the last couple of years to do it. So when we launched the program in 2019, we wanted to launch in a way that was really, really, really easy for Canadians to understand. And so, look, when 80% of the country comes to your brand every month, it means effectively everyone is coming, right? And so it has to be something that's really easy for people to engage and understand. And so what we first launched was effectively like a digital punch card. You pick up a plastic card with a barcode, you scan it up to 7 times, you get a free coffee. And it was pretty easy. And you didn't have to do anything online. You could go online and link it to the app, but you weren't forced to at the beginning. So there's a couple things there. One, it was really easy for our guests to understand. It was really easy for our team members to explain. It was built in a way that would allow us to evolve the digital platform without, it wasn't a paper card. You had to switch to something. It was built so it could integrate with our app and be digital and know our guests from the start. And the value proposition was really good. I mean, our guests are already extremely loyal and love the brand, and that we launched as a way to thank them. And there was a really good value for our guests in terms of what we were offering. A year later, we made some evolutions to it. We evolved it from 1 in 7 coffees, get your 7th coffee and get the next one free, to a points program. And so that allowed us to, it added a bit more complexity to the program. It required guests to be a bit more digital at the first, not mandatory again. But we also opened up the portfolio of our menu. So instead of, 1 in 7 or 70 points now for free coffee, maybe you want a breakfast sandwich for 180 points. And so, we added a little bit of complexity, but we added a pretty clear value statement or value proposition to our guests, which is it's not just coffee anymore. You can redeem for anything you want. And then we continue to layer, we'll talk probably a bit about our offers we're doing, our games or contests we're doing. We had a very conscious plan to continue to add other avenues of value for our guests along the way. So I think the key was not to try to do all that at the beginning. We got a lot of our acquisition right, at least into the more analog program at the beginning. And then once they were in, we sort of brought them on the journey to a more digital experience in the second year of the program.
Okay, great. So when you look at the evolution of the program, it seems like the value proposition continues to evolve, very focused on making sure you're driving as much value for the consumer, your customer, as possible. When you look at the weekly exclusive offer that the guests are assigned based on, kind of obviously their behavior, their interests, their propensity to engage, can you tell us about how that works? It seems to be driving some pretty unique success for you.
Yeah, look, it's been it's an interesting, when we first Tim Hortons as a brand has never done like coupons. Occasionally we would do like paper coupons, very, very occasionally, which, in QSR in general, it tended to be a very common way to drive traffic in a restaurant. But we already had traffic, right, in traditionally in the business. So, and actually because our guests come so frequently, they tend to or risk being cannibalistic. And so we knew that when we were going to launch offers in the app, we knew we'd have to use our customer data and really understand what guests buy today and what we could stretch them to buy or what might be interesting for them to buy that both creates value for the guests and for our owners, our franchisees, to make sure it's a profitable sale. So look, we started that. Well, at first we started doing it and realized it's an enormous amount of data that we're trying to process, and we have to invest to make sure we can handle that. But what we realized is we're obviously a lot smarter today than we were when we started doing our personalization, our personalized offers in our app a year and a half ago. But it didn't matter back then because it was new to our guests and it was something exciting and they were trying it. So it was a little bit of as our guests are trying new offers and experiencing it, what we've been doing is both adding new offers that they might be interested in and building new models and just trying to think what's the best thing, that Matt might want today based on what they purchase. So it really is focused around understanding our guests and understanding what, I'll give you a perfect example. We have guests who will drink iced coffee, and this year we've launched cold brew. And some of you guys might know, you said they're very habitual and they're always going in and getting their iced coffee. But we know the cold brew is an amazing product. And it's a great way to present a cold brew offer to a guest who's traditionally an iced coffee guest to see if they'd like to try it, maybe try it for $1 or something. So it's been things like that have really gotten the stickiness with our guests. And as you say, it's driving really good commercial performance for us as well.
Absolutely. You had a campaign, Roll Up the Rim. I think it was a pretty successful campaign, kind of iconic annual tradition for Canadians. I think since going back to the mid 80s. The pandemic really changed that. How did you overcome the obstacle of kind of losing that program and the impact of that program? And how did you allow them to still play the game?
Yeah, look, I think for context reveal, you're right. The game goes by the 80s. I can remember playing this my whole life. Like context, it used to be you'd roll the rim if you don't know it. And underneath, you'd either have please play again, or hopefully you had a free coffee, baked good, or other prizes, could be a car or things. As you say, we were already planning on running in 2020 a hybrid program. So we're going to run the traditional one, but we're going to try something in the app. Until about a week before the program launched on March 11th, when we realized, based on what was happening with the pandemic, it wasn't going to be realistic or safe for our team members and our guests to be interacting that way with. We literally had to hand over part of the cup as a prize. And so luckily we'd already built the digital game, which was quite accessible, in the context of COVID. So, I mean, we didn't really promote it because we really had to, pivot what we were talking about to Canadians about how we're supporting Canada at a time, and really making sure we're there supporting our frontline workers and then also actually pivoting to be more focused on delivery so we could get to our guests. But the program was there and it worked, and we did have people play it. It did mean we had to stop the paper cup program in the 11th hour. But really it gave us the opportunity as we came into this year we went all in. We went 100% digital. We're like, we know this is right for going forward for the business. We know we can have an amazing game. And an important change we made is because of the loyalty program, like 8 out of 9 times people used to play, you'd roll a cup and it'd be please play again, and everyone hated getting that. So, but we were able to design the program in a way that you always won. Now, it might be a car, it might be a couple of loyalty points, but every guest was going to win something. Which I think until we started playing with it, we loved the concept, and we started playing and testing. We realized this is awesome. Like, it's awesome to always get something under the virtual rim, which now you're rolling on the app, and we've renamed it Roll Up to Win. But it was great, and honestly, we had huge adoption. Generally speaking, it very, very well received, and certainly is the way we're thinking about the campaign going forward.
Okay, great. One of the things we like to do is when we talk to brands, get an understanding of kind of how they define customer loyalty, what customer loyalty means to their organization. So, what does customer loyalty mean to you and to Tim Hortons?
Well, look, as I mentioned, our guests have been loyal to our brand long before we were doing a loyalty program or anything digital, right? Like they are, our guests are habitual. They're coming to us, on average 3 to 4 times a week. We're in their routines. I think, to make sure we continue to have loyal guests, I think it's an array of things we need to be doing. We need to make sure we're continuously delivering high quality products, food and beverage to our guests. That's what we do, with a great experience. And I think, our Hope Bagosi, our CMO, and our food development team are spending a lot of work continuing to make sure that that we have amazing food innovation. Mike Hancock, our COO, and our ops team are really focused working with our franchise partners on execution in restaurant. And look, everything we can do digital is just on top of that, right? We can make ordering a little bit more efficient for guests who want to use it. We can provide new experiences in a platform that didn't exist before. And we can provide a new source of value with a loyalty program, which is just a little bit of an extra little, some people like looking at the number of points increasing. Some people like playing with games and stuff that we're able to do that was harder to do when you didn't have that digital ecosystem to bring it together. So really, we look at loyalty as it certainly is not just my team. It is certainly, we all think about the guests first, and how our parts make sure we continue to have loyal guests. And I guess we get to do the fun new things, but so we think it very holistically as we look to continue to keep our guests loyal with Tim's.
Perfect. When we kicked off this conversation when we were offline a little bit, we were talking about technology, some things you're doing. It's a big challenge and a big opportunity for marketers right now, because being able to do customer loyalty or customer experience or personalization at scale requires technology. So, what's the most significant challenge you think for brands when it comes to technology, and how is your brand working to address these challenges?
Yeah, look, it's always a challenge. I think, how have we done it, right? I think, there's a series. I think taking the time to think where you're going and your roadmap is critical, right? And because if you're not thinking, like, even when I think back to end of 2018 when we were designing our loyalty program, we knew where we wanted to get to by now, which is a fully digital program with a series of benefits for our guests. That's not what the program looked like at all in 2019. But the foundational work we did made it easier for us to build additional layers on top of it. And so, look, I think it's certainly thinking a few steps ahead and where you want to take it, which can sometimes be challenging. But I think just taking that time and being patient, that you don't need to deliver the guest-facing benefit today, but you need to be building some of the foundational elements to get there. I think working with good partners, we don't actually have a big team at Tim's. We actually run a really lean. Our full software engineering team, core team, is under 30 people. For a couple of years, we were running our loyalty program with a handful of people. Theirs are really good, and they loved what they were doing. And I think that's the other thing I learned in my time in Pizza Hut, that the world of needing 300 software developers that's completely unnecessary today. If you really have really talented people who can lay out the pieces properly. But then you're always dealing with the classic integrations and POS vendors who are great, but they have a complex job in its own right. And I think, look, these are things you got to figure out where the biggest bottlenecks are, figure out when you can work around them, and when you need to really invest to sort of address them. And so, look, we've done that sort of work. The key thing is for us is to focus on the things that are having the biggest impact on the guest. A lot of that was covering the foundational elements, and then go back and kind of go through the next layer. So, look, it's not an easy answer for anyone, but I think it's we've been on a 3-year journey, which I think is pretty fast. But I think just the key is that roadmap, and just be thinking what elements you want to pick off first, knowing where you want to get to.
Okay, great. When you look at personalization, obviously doing a lot around that as a brand, how important is personalization to you, and what are some of the challenges you see getting to that one-to-one opportunity?
Look, I think personalization is important as long as it matters for the guest, right? And so we should be focused on the things that make it an easier experience for the guest. And obviously the use case we're working a lot on right now is the offers, as we talked about. We're also doing some stuff in the drive-through as well, and exciting things in the pipeline in that space. Look, if you're making things, if you're saving the guest time, or maybe giving them access to a new product that they hadn't seen before in our industry, that tends to be well received. And so I think it is important. I think the challenge with personalization is, look, you can personalize anything, right? Like you can, I think you got to be careful to make sure that you're focusing on the things that matter instead of things that might be a shiny object, because you can burn a lot of resources on it. Because as soon as you start going down this path, it doesn't end, right? You put a team or a pod on it, and then you have to continue to innovate on it, right? And sort of think about it and improve it. So I think and we've done it in different ways. Sometimes we are, you don't necessarily need to get to one-to-one. You just maybe need to be a little bit more intelligent with your data to have a broader experience. So like even using analytics to sort of segment can sometimes be better than versus thinking you need to go all the way to one-to-one. So, really deciding where you really need to use it, knowing that there is like a carrying cost once you sort of invest in a certain space is pretty important.
Okay. Partnerships are something that's very important to the members of Loyalty 360 and brands in general. We do a lot of introductions and help brands through our partnership network accomplish that. What do you see with regard to partnerships? Has your brand traditionally focused on partnerships? If so, is that something you'll be looking at going forward?
Yeah, look, I think more generally, Tim Hortons has a lot of partnerships as a brand, outside of loyalty, like a loyalty program. A big one, we partner with the NHL in Canada and all the Canadian NHL teams. And we actually, we ran a game in our app, NHL hockey contest, where you could basically bet on who's going to score that night and win loyalty points. And that was a pretty awesome, fun thing you don't have to make a purchase. You just show up and every night and you can play. And that was something we did with the NHL, which was pretty cool. So that was not quite like, it's not a loyalty, like a points exchange partnership, but something that was pretty cool to work with a very, very close partner with us. I think in terms of like actual more traditional, like, loyalty program partnerships, we've done some, we haven't partnered yet. And we've looked at it. We've done our homework in the space. It's no reason other than just, there's a lot we're doing in our core program today. So it's not to say we wouldn't ever do it, but we'll probably make sure we take the time to do it right. We sort of, we know the pros and cons of it. We're open to it. It's certainly something on our mind, but we certainly aren't going to rush into it.
Okay. Next question. What's the next big thing for customer loyalty for Tim Hortons?
Yeah, look, we come a long way. I would say, it's not going to sound overly exciting, but I think, we've done a lot to really grow the base. The way to describe, we have a good app. We're probably, as our monthly active users for food service apps in Canada, I think we're the largest. I think we're a top 30 app in Canada in terms of uses per month. We're, the top 10 are all, Google and Facebook. I think Amazon's number 10. It's the top retail app by far. Like, so we're watching, we know where we sit, and I think the question for us is, what's going to take our app to be good? Generally, our guests, we research with our guests, and I think we have a really good app that creates a lot of value, but how do you go from good to great? And so, how do you make it the app that people really, really think, I need to use this every day? So I won't give too much away in terms of what we're thinking about, but that is on our mind, right? So we're sort of Tim Hortons as a brand in Canada has the right to think beyond just QSR. And in terms of like benefiting our guests. And so, what does that mean in terms of app performance, app experience to get us to the next level? So I probably won't share any more, but that's sort of the way we're looking at it.
Perfect. So when you look at the customer loyalty, what can Loyalty 360 do to help you and your team in your customer loyalty journey?
Yeah, look, I think it's been great getting to know you guys and talk to you. I think, just learning, obviously we've only been in the loyalty game for, a few years in terms of running a loyalty program, right? And I said, we've been, supporting loyal guests for years. But it's great to see, you guys have such a broad network cross industry. I think we've learned a lot and researched a lot to understand outside of QSR, because I think there's, it's a very hot topic in our industry today, but it's been hot topics in the industry longer. So I think, just talking with you guys, understand what you've seen in other areas, connecting with other, other brands and other areas, I think is very helpful for us. So, excited to continue the dialogue, this year and beyond.
Absolutely. Well, Matt, thank you very much for taking the time to talk to us today. It was great learning more about you personally, and also Tim Hortons and your customer loyalty approach. A very unique focus. The passion is great to hear, and thank you for everything you do for the industry.
No, great. Thanks for having me. Thanks.
Absolutely. And thanks for everyone listening. Make sure you join us back soon for another edition of the Leaders in Customer Loyalty.